This is Michael Andich. I'm your host for today. I'm with George Brown College in the Center for Business. I'm the Manager of Field Education and Partnerships. So welcome. It looks like we've got a full roster. I think we have 19 schools on the line, so that is fantastic. So it is my great pleasure to welcome our partner in this endeavor, ICTC, for their participation and support of this webinar. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping points. So the webinar will be recorded, and a link will be shared in about a week. Everybody's audio is muted, so if you want to ask a question, you need to use the group chat feature, which I think everyone has. Just based on the messages I'm seeing, everyone has sort of written in, so that's fantastic. So it's a participant feedback box. So there'll be an opportunity to ask questions along the way, but there may be some prompts as well from our partner, Sarah Storm. Also, the ICTC will be answering some questions, or can answer some questions in French. So if you prefer to write those questions in French and put them through the messaging, those questions will be answered. So in addition to Sarah, who I'll introduce more formally in a moment, she has a couple of her colleagues that are also on the webinar. And let me just introduce them very quickly. So Ruth Mengistu, who's an employer liaison with ICTC, Sade Murray, a stakeholder liaison, Veronique Saint-Denis, executive assistant and stakeholder liaison, and I think it's Ciara Blackwell she's a partnerships coordinator. So my apologies if I've mangled anybody's name. So welcome to everyone from ICTC. So let me just introduce Sarah. So Sarah is the program coordinator for education initiatives with the Information and Communications Technology Council, ICTC, and on the WIL digital team. Sarah believes in the value of education and workplace learning. She has an MA in Conflict Studies from St. Paul University, which is part of University of Ottawa, a BA in International Comparative Studies and Political Science from Huron College at Western, a postgrad certificate in Disaster and Emergency Management from York U, and a diploma in journalism from Niagara College. So she fully understands the value of transferring skills and knowledge from education into the workplace through her own lived experiences. She's held a number of various positions in the nonprofit sector in a number of capacities, including program development and fundraising with the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund Canada and volunteer management with the Cancer Society in Toronto. Before joining ICTC in November 2017, she was the coordinator for physical resources at St. Paul University in the city of Ottawa. So thank you everyone from ICTC, and thank you everyone on the line from different schools across the country. So welcome.
Sarah, you might have to unmute yourself. I don't know if you're speaking.
So please bear with us, folks.
Sarah, if you're on a phone, you can hit *7 to unmute yourself.
Can everyone hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. Thanks. Sorry for that. So I just wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to come and hear about the program. I was quite interested. I was quite excited on my way into work this morning because I was listening to a podcast on creativity, and the one thing that they were talking about in the podcast that was the importance of play. And I think it really spoke to the importance of WIL and co-op placements in the learning sphere, because they were saying how play is not really just fun, but it's also, it goes beyond that in terms of just taking risks and applying your knowledge. So it really spoke to me, and it was quite timely that I listened to this morning on my way in. So I just wanted to note how important what you do at your educational institutions is. I'll just get right into it. Okay, there we go. So for those who don't know about our program and about our organization, ICTC is we're a not-for-profit center of expertise for Canada's digital economy. We have a team of researchers who are doing labor market research into the digital economy, and by digital economy, they mean it includes all ICT sectors, so information and communications technology sectors. And from that research, we give policy advice to the government, and we also do proposals in order to create capacity building programs. And this is really the source for WIL Digital. ICTC had a report, a recent Outlook report, in which it was found that around 216,000 digital professionals will be needed by 2021. And these are really focused into the emerging sectors. So that was really the base of the WIL Digital program. So to speak more specifically about WIL Digital, the objective is to put students into the jobs for the future. It's a national program funded by ESDC's Student Work Placement Program, which you probably know. So our main goals are to develop the talent for emerging tech sectors, which I'll list in another slide. And we provide support to employers through the wage subsidy, but also through pieces such as our learning plans. There is a partnership piece to the WIL Digital program, in which we're exploring innovative models for work-integrated learning, and also to foster industry and education relationships, or to explore something interesting in the emerging tech sectors. I'm not going to speak too much about that because a lot of the questions that came through for this webinar was really focused on getting employers signed up and the process for the application. However, if you are interested, you can always email us afterwards in that regard. So just to give you a quick snapshot of the numbers, so to date, we started in September 2017, and to date we've had 398 WIL opportunities supported, and for the 4 years that the program's being funded, right now we're at over 12,000 WIL opportunities, and we're expecting that to increase. What I really want to emphasize here is that for right now we do have 300 placements available, and that is because we'll be sending out a press release, but that is because we've received an increase in placements recently we really want to make sure that employers across Canada are aware of this increase and the placements that are available. And the emerging tech sectors that we are targeting and that we're focusing on is advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, intelligent retail. You can read the fintech. You can read the list there. And then we have specific positions in the increase for artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. So those are really the two areas in which we are really focused on. And For the increase of the placements, the other thing I want to touch on is that the placement start date can be any time until the end of March 31st. So we were given a little bit of an extension as to the placement start date. So I'll just move on. Okay, so the employer application process. Let me just. Okay, so we try and evaluate each employer application within a 2-week time frame. Each application is evaluated on 3 main criteria. So there's company eligibility, student eligibility, and position eligibility. What this means is that when we get an application in, we do need all 3 pieces in order to evaluate an application. So the process that employers normally take is they reach out and some employers reach out to check their eligibility, or maybe they're checking online or speaking to a service that is directing them to us or through a co-op department. They're checking their eligibility. They can create their company profile at any time. And this is through our new application system. We have a new CEWIL digital portal in which companies create a profile, and questions that are one-time questions, they only have to answer one time. It's a much more efficient process. So we're quite happy to have launched that recently. So they create their profile. They can do this anytime. They need to, at that time, they would need to create a position and recruit an eligible student. And usually, if a company asks us about the recruitment process and how they obtain a student, oftentimes I'm linking them back to a co-op department in order to assist with the matching. So our organization does not match companies with students at this time. Once the student is recruited, they're added into the portal, and the student completes their application. And then if there's a piece that we're missing in the application, then we would ask the employer to follow up with the student in terms of that. The key things in this process is that sometimes with the student application we're missing proof of enrollment or proof of citizenship or residency. So those are probably the 2 key things that I can really see a co-op department really helping with. So if we go through what the evaluation criteria is in a bit more detail here. So the employer needs to be registered in Canada, so we do ask for a business registration number. They need to be in those targeted emerging sectors. There is one other option which I'll speak to in terms of the position. But ideally they should be working within the emerging tech sectors that I outlined. Providing a safe workplace, provide general liability insurance. One of the trickier things is the net new. So what net new means is that essentially the program is focused on student placement growth. So how we determine that is simply by numbers. So we're not looking at what positions were offered year from year. We're looking at the increase in the number of student placements. So we ask in the application, how many student placements did you offer to students and fill by students in the previous fiscal year, and this is based on the government fiscal year, and how many student placements do you intend to offer for this fiscal year? The word intend is important there because especially for the smaller startup companies, it's sometimes difficult, especially at the beginning of the fiscal year, for the summer students. It's sometimes a little bit challenging for them to determine exactly how many student placements they'll be able to offer that year. So we do try and allow a little bit of flexibility. So essentially, it's just doing the math and subtracting one from the other. So to give an example, if a company offered two student placements in the previous fiscal year, and they want funding for 2 in the current fiscal year, they would need to say that they were going to hire 4 student placements. So 2 would be eligible for funding if they were intending on hiring 4. Another key point that sometimes is missed is that by the employers is that they need to hire the student as an employee on the payroll. So sometimes we get questions from employers saying, "Can I hire the student as a contractor, a dependent contractor?" Unfortunately, no. They do need to hire the employee, and they need to be on their payroll. The position types is it must be IT or IT related, business development, technical sales, or digital marketing. So just a small note here is that if the company is not working directly in the targeted emerging sectors, however, they're offering a student a position that is directly working with emerging technology, we would definitely consider it. And the reason for that is the fact that the emerging technology is really touching so many different sectors. So it could be a tourism company that's doing something with big data or cybersecurity. If we see that the position is adding value and is meaningful for the student, we would still consider it, even if the employer is not in the emerging sector. The requirements for a student is they must be enrolled full-time. They must be a student enrolled in STEM or business programs, so science, technology, engineering, math. And they must be either a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or under refugee status. So unfortunately, it still stands that an international student with a work permit is not eligible for the program. They need to be obviously legally entitled to work, and then we do need to have proof of enrollment and citizenship or residency. In the student application piece, we do list how the proof of enrollment and citizenship or residency, which pieces of documentation apply, and exactly what information we need from the students in order for that. And just a note here is that if we have an employer come to us and an application come to us, and it's we're missing a piece of this, we'll always go back to the employer first and try and resolve it. So it's not just denied outright. We're always trying to work with employers to make sure that somebody is not denied just for technicality. I just want to take a second here to open it up to questions, because I feel like this slide is, I think, very important to everybody on the call.
So Sarah, we have 2 questions, one from Lauren Starr and one from Sarah Ladd.
So from Lauren, there's definitely no age requirements. for Will Digital, which I think is fantastic. And I'm just reading the question from Sarah. If a company hasn't hired students with more than a full fiscal year, can they start again? If a company, sorry, I'm just rereading, hasn't hired students for more than a full fiscal year. Yeah, yes, definitely. So it would, if the company hadn't hired any students into a student placement in the previous fiscal year, they would be at zero, definitely. And I'm just seeing that there's a question as well from Derek. Thank you, Derek. Does the employer need to recruit a student before being able to secure funding? Yes, so we do need the student to be recruited. Often what employers do, and I think is kind of a best practice that I've seen, is employers offer the student a conditional employment contract. And the reason I think it's a really good best practice is that it really does give incentive and for the student to complete their pieces of the application in a timely manner, because sometimes that does hold up an application in that we have the application from the employer but not from the student. So a conditional offer allows, gives the student some security in that the position is there, but kind of gives them some incentive to get their application done. And I see another question here from Carrie. Are not-for-profit? No, unfortunately. So the program is really for businesses. So not-for-profit organizations, hospitals, schools, pretty much anyone with a nonprofit number and or without a business registration number would not be eligible for the program. And I see a follow-up question from Sarah. Yeah, I guess that's the risk with the employer's face is that with a conditional offer, it's not 100%, and so I guess there would definitely be a risk that the student might go elsewhere. I find with the conditional offer, normally I haven't seen that happen in our applications. But for the employers that really use that is a lot of the small and medium enterprises, like the really startup and small companies. Some of them really can't, they need the funding in order to provide the offer to the student, and that's where that is. That's where that conditional offer is given. I think the conditional offer is the best way in that case if they can't afford to give the student an offer, irregardless of the funding from ICTC. So it looks like those are the main questions there. So I'm just going to move forward to the next slide. So after an approval, the steps that an employer would take and the student is we'd ask the employer to sign their contract and upload their banking information. The banking information is specifically because we do an electronic funds transfer at the end. We find that's a faster way to pay the companies at the end of the 4-month period. And the banking information is also a one-time task, so they won't have to redo this with every application. Within the first 2 weeks, we ask the student and the employer to together create a learning plan. And the learning plan essentially, we ask employers and students to consider the goals of the student within the placement and the goals of the employer, and earmark 4 technical skills that they'll learn throughout the placement, and then also we ask them to think about what they would do in terms of some soft skills in terms of communications, and soft skills like that as well in the learning plan. This learning plan is really the basis for our final evaluation as well. So it's a big chunk of what we evaluate at the end of the placement. About halfway through, we ask for a very quick check-in, and the check-in is really just making sure everything's going smoothly, making sure, for example, on the student side, we're asking them, is your workplace safe? Are you getting paid regularly? And on the employer side, questions like, did you hire the student as a employee of the company? Things like that. And then in the last 2 weeks, we ask them to complete a final evaluation. And the final evaluation, as I mentioned, is really based on the learning plan, and then there's also some questions that we are asked to collect, some data that we're asked to collect from the funder, from ESDC. After that's completed, and so after the placement's finished, we'll ask for the proof of payroll, and after the last pay is when the subsidy is delivered. So it's, what we say is it'll be within 4 weeks of proof of payroll being submitted. On the student side of things, so they're asked to contribute to their learning plan. There's a short check-in about halfway through, and a final evaluation at the end. Each piece, including the application, so the application might take 20 minutes for an employer. The learning plan, it would depend on the discussion. The check-in is like a 2-minute exercise, final evaluations, 20 minutes. So we do try and make it really a quick process. I'm just going to, I see that there's a few questions coming through again, so I'm just going to open it up to open it up to address the questions that are coming in.
Yeah, Sarah, I think Sarah Ladd is just asking for clarification on a previous point.
Sure. Does the employer have to restart an application with a new student, or can they get it up? Yeah, so we do have situations where, that's a great question, thank you, Sarah. We do have situations where a student doesn't work out, or a student leaves the placement. They can replace, they have a window of time in which they can replace the student and continue on with the placement. And just adjust their learning plan accordingly. The other option is if a placement doesn't work out, we could just cancel that and start a new application as well. So it just depends on how far along we are in the placement. So those are kind of the 2 options. And in that case, we often work with the employer to see what's the best fit for them. Great. Okay, so we'll just move on. So I think most people on the call probably know this, but just to review it quickly, so the amount that the employer is eligible to receive is it's a wage subsidy up to 50%, and it's capped at $5,000. If they're hiring an underrepresented student, and the list of the underrepresented students is there, it's 70% and capped at $7,000. And and this is also capped at the end of the 4-month period. Part-time placements, we do often get questions on that, and part-time placements are possible. And the only thing is they often don't reach the maximum subsidy, but we're quite happy to support part-time positions as well. Yeah. So I just want to do a quick review of the different things I've highlighted here. So the real focus of the program is to put students in the jobs of the future. And it's a student, we tried to make we didn't try, we made a program that was very student-centered through the learning plan and through the different pieces. And it's very efficient, especially because of our new Real Digital portal. And we do try and work with post-secondary institutions. We do this through our partnerships, and also in terms of the co-op departments are just really instrumental in terms of matching job openings with the students. And part of the industry piece of our program is we have done research into 3 of our targeted sectors. So if you have any questions into that research, it's in advanced manufacturing, intelligent retail, and fintech, and it's just based on like what the talent pool is and what they're looking for, what skills they're looking for in those sectors. So I just want to thank everybody. We'll be sharing out this link, and so you'll have links. You'll have the links in order to apply. The other thing we're planning on doing is through CEWIL is sending out more resources on Will Digital so that it's very quick that you can share them with employers. So one-pagers and cheat sheets so that you understand it makes it easier to understand the program. The one note I just want to make is that ICTC does have other programs that are available for recent graduates. So it's 2 of them are Digital Link Ontario and Career Connect. Career Connect is full currently, but it will be reopened in April. And Digital Link Ontario is currently open with funding. Both of these programs, however, just to note, are for positions in Ontario because they were funded by the Ontario government. So when we send out the link, it'll also include a link for those programs as well if you're interested, and you can always reach out to us as well. So I'm just going to open it up to questions.
So we've got another question from Sarah, and one from Colin Furness, and one from Nicole Myers.
Hi, Sarah. Yes, there is funding for summer as well. We have funding specifically for AI and cybersecurity. We haven't heard the announcement on the funding for the entire program as of yet from the government. But based on the CEWIL presentations that the government made at the CEWIL conference back in June, I expect that the program will be, like, we're expecting funding to come through, but we can't say for sure until we hear from the government. So Colin, feature will you consider allowing employees to apply for a funded position first? Sorry, I'm just reading through the question here, so that they can hire. We've looked at we've looked at the option of creating of giving almost like a pre-approval to employers based on the company profile. Our only hesitation is that we don't want employers to then come forward with an ineligible student and assume the eligibility. So the tricky part there is that students have to fit in the eligibility criteria, and we have actually experienced this with our partnerships. So it is something that's kind of based on our experience, is that sometimes if we give a little bit of a pre-approval, that can sometimes mean that any student that's brought forward would be eligible. So that's why we haven't moved forward in that direction. That's not to say that it won't happen, but up to now, that's our reasoning for not doing it, not doing the process in that way. However, with the new WIL Digital portal, they can create their company profile at any point. And how we work is when employers reach out to the WIL Digital team and ask specific questions like, this is my company description, and would I be does my company fit in the eligibility for this program? We will give them an answer to that question and work with them on that. So they can get that answer through that route, and it's a little bit more one-on-one. So that's how we've kind of approached that side of things there. So Nicole. Yes, yeah, I think Nicole, if you send us an email, I don't think we can send out all of the information on the research that was done, like just as a general information wide. However, what I can do is we'll speak with the manager, and also if you have a very specific question on the skills, feel free to reach out to us, and we can answer any questions on the skills of those three industries. On skills. So the research that was done, just to specify, the research that was done was just specifically on advanced manufacturing, intelligent retail, and fintech. Okay, so Tara, I'm just reading your question here. For the extra 300 placements that you mentioned, do the jobs have to be in advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, and intelligent retail? No. So for the 300 placements that we have, about 47 of them are in our pool. In our general pool of subsidies. So that includes gaming and the intelligent retail, the entire list of our targeted technologies and sectors. So it's about 47. However, for the extra placements, the extra placements are focused on artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. And just a note is that I find that artificial intelligence really does touch on almost all of our targeted emerging sectors. So, for example, advanced manufacturing, almost all of the advanced manufacturing positions that come into us have an AI piece to them. So it doesn't have to, the jobs don't necessarily have to say artificial intelligence, say, for example, in the position title. We will take a look and try and put, if there's pieces of the job that's focused on cybersecurity or AI, we will put them into that category of funding. So I'm just reading the question from Leanne. From a previous, could be approved. Sorry. From a previous webinar, I thought that we were told that universities could be approved employers. Oh, as far as I understand, a university is not an approved employer. We can explore that further with the funder just to make sure that it's not something that I misunderstood. But as far as I understood, because when I worked at St. Paul University, I know that we had a charitable registration number. So I think that universities don't have a business registration number. And my understanding is that the funding is really focused on businesses with a business registration number. It looks like those are the questions. I just want to thank everybody so much for taking the time to participate, and thank you as well for everybody who typed in extra questions. I consider this program really a collaborative effort between the educational institutions and especially co-op departments and CEWIL, because it really helps us in terms of outreach and in terms of reaching employers. We do outreach on our own through LinkedIn and through our own networks, but co-op departments have, of course, the students and the employers with them, coming to them. So it's really the success of the program is really a collaborative effort, and in a large part thank you to the co-op departments at universities and colleges.
So Sarah, I guess if there are no more questions, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for all the work that you put into this presentation. So thank you, very, very informative. I also want to thank Ruth, Sade, Veronique, and Ciara for being there as your backup, I guess, or the rest of your team. So thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy schedules. And I want to thank all the participating schools. I just want to say that the CEWIL Government Relations Committee is working very hard on a number of fronts to try to connect all of our schools with the different associations we're working with. And I want to thank you on behalf of myself and Julie Walshley, who's with UBC, and my partner as government relations liaisons with the ICTC. So again, thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to meet with us. I hope the information was valuable. Sarah, just a quick question. Because it sounds like a lot of, and we encounter this all the time, people have unique situations. If they have a unique situation that doesn't meet the information you presented or is not answered on an FAQ on your website, are they okay to connect with you directly?
Definitely, and I find that it does happen quite a bit where, things just, they look so clear on paper, and then when you have like a very specific situation that's very, just doesn't quite fit, definitely reach out to us, and we will do our best to try and sort through it and find the information. And Michael, just before I really want to thank you for taking your time. I know you're super busy, and it's great to have you on board and helping us, and thanks to CEWIL as well, the entire CEWIL team and Julie. So.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Definitely. Thanks.